Come along with me. Let's make some granola to go on top of our homemade yogurt. Hi there. Thanks for stopping by. Welcome to my channel. My name's Kathy, and we're going to learn about rolling oats in your own kitchen. We're going to make Alton Brown's recipe of granola. So we're going to bake that up, and I'm glad you're here. Look forward to sharing this with you. Today we're going to flock some oats. We have some oat groats. We're going to use the Ancestrum mixer, turn on its side, and we have the oat flocker here, Messerschmitt flocker. This has an attachment that can be purchased, which makes it compatible, or an adapter which allows it to fit onto the Ancestrum. You can buy an Ancestrum flocker that does not require the adapter to permit it to fit, but doing cost comparison and researching the products, it seemed like this was similar, if not the same, and this adapter would permit me to use more attachments for different things. So that is why I went this route. We had this tightening screw here, which we want to ensure is on there tightly. And this is where our oats will go in. And this literally just flattens the oats, rolls them, and I'm going to use that to make our Alton Brown granola today. So let's get some oat groats, and get started. Here are our oat groats. You can purchase these in a larger quantity and make them into whatever you prefer. In this case, we're going to use the flocker to roll them or crimp them. It looks more like a crimped oat at the end as opposed to a rolled one. But if you have these oats, you can also put them in a blender or a food processor and turn them into steel cut oats. I like the flexibility. Of course, the nutrition content in these is superior because you've got an intact grain here. So I do it for the nutrition, but then also for the flexibility to be able to turn it into whatever I want it to be when I want it to be. So I store these in a 6-gallon bucket, and I can cook them whole like this or make them whatever I'd like them to be. And in this case, I need 3 cups of rolled oats for the Alton Brown granola recipe. So we're going to just turn on our mixer, which I can show you causes this to start rolling in there. It's just a metal mechanism. This is just a funnel to keep things moving. And just going to go in with quantity to get started. One thing I will say about this particular flocker is I have to babysit it. I would prefer not to, but regardless of how I've used the Ancestrum speed, it will get clogged and just need some encouragement. I shouldn't say it gets clogged. I think the funnel gets clogged more so than anything, and I may have to shake it to get things moving to keep the flow, and that's why I have to babysit it. And I'd much rather not to. I'd like to be able to do other things while this is in progress. See, there it went. First time it has stopped. Give it a shake, and it gets started again. All done. Our oats. This is what they look like now. Rolled. As you can see that pattern on there, I consider that crimping. But yeah, we have rolled oats from our oat groats ready to use in our granola Today's recipe, we're using Alton Brown's granola recipe, and it is titled Granola. Takes about an hour and 25 minutes, makes 6 servings, and we're going to start with 3 cups of rolled oats, which I believe is about what we got from our previous experience in rolling our own oats. We're using a half a cup measuring scoop today. That's 1.5, 2, 2.5, and 3. 3 cups of rolled oats in there. And now we're going to move on to cashews. It just says cashews in the recipe. 1 cup. So this is 1 cup of cashews, and I am just not feeling like having whole cashews in my oats, in my granola rather. So I am going to chop these, at least somewhat, with the trusty knife here. These are raw and unsalted cashews. And I would think that if you have a different favorite nut that you prefer, you could easily swap these out. This recipe, Alton's recipe, calls for 1 cup of slivered almonds and 1 cup of cashews. So just giving these a rough chop with the knife here on the cutting board. All of this is going to go in the bowl to get mixed well with some brown sugar, maple syrup. This will go in the oven, because if you didn't, then it would just be oatmeal. Okay, rough chopping here. Granola, we all think of it, I think, as a health food, but realizing that most granola has a high fat content because of the nuts and the oil, and then also sugar added in this case, maple syrup and brown sugar. It's one of those things that, you know, you decide how much you want to eat. I think it's a little bit on yogurt generally, maybe some people in a bowl with milk, I'm not sure, but yeah, I don't consider this, I do consider it a health food. I don't consider it a low-fat food. Moving on here to our almonds. His recipe calls for slivered almonds. I don't have slivered almonds. I have my crunchy almonds, and what I do with my almonds is I get raw almonds, unsalted almonds from Costco, and then I put them in a salt brine for 24 hours. And then after that, pour off the brine. I don't rinse them because you want that salt to stay on the surface of the almonds. And then I put them in a dehydrator for probably 48 hours at 115 degrees. So now our cup of almonds going in our big. Make sure your surface is clean so you can pick up all those stragglers and get them in your bowl. All right, and this recipe calls for 1/4 cup of vegetable oil. I am going to do 1/4 cup of coconut oil. So I'll put this in my microwave, or if you choose, you can put it in a small pot on your stove to melt it. I like coconut oil. I think that it is a healthy fat. That's what I want to use. And on the note of coconut oil, it does say use 3/4 cup of shredded sweet coconut. I don't have shredded sweet coconut, and my husband does not like coconut. So I'm pushing it by using the coconut oil. So we will not be putting the 3/4 cup shredded sweet coconut in this recipe. In this, yeah, my version. Here is our coconut oil after 30 seconds in the microwave. I'm going to put that aside and we'll get it in a minute. This also recipe calls for 1/4 cup plus 2 tablespoons of maple syrup. And I know 2 tablespoons is a half of a quarter. A quarter of a cup is 4 tablespoons, so I'm going to do this quarter of a cup and then half again in our bowl. And it says in a large bowl, combine the oats, nuts, coconut, and brown sugar. So we have oats, nuts. We're not using coconut, and the brown sugar's in here. It says in another bowl, combine the maple syrup, oil, and salt. Combine both mixtures and pour onto a sheet pan. Quarter of a cup of maple syrup, some salt, and our oil. Combine our maple syrup, oil, salt in this bowl so that we can get it combined well. I am using the original quarter of a cup measuring scoop that I used for the coconut oil. Thought that might help get our maple syrup out, but I doubt it. And then again, 2 tablespoons is another half of this quarter. And now we have, all right, in our bowl here we have 1/4 cup plus 2 tablespoons of maple syrup. Going to add our 1/4 cup of melted coconut oil. We're going to do 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt. I have a 1/4 of a teaspoon here, 1/4 of a teaspoon measuring spoon, so 1/4, 2, and 3. It's my little spatula here to mix everything so we get the oil and the maple syrup and the salt well incorporated. Alton has 1 cup of raisins called out in the ingredients. Oh, there it is. So after, remove from oven and transfer to a large bowl, add the raisins, mix until evenly distributed. Okay, so I am not going to use raisins. Again, it's another thing my husband's not a fan of. So I have some dried cranberries that I will be using after the bake. Okay, so we're going to get this over here. We have everything mixed well, nuts, oats. This is going to be drizzled over. That coconut oil is already starting to firm up a bit. So I want to get this in and mix it well before it turns back to a solid, which it is doing quickly. Alton says to combine these two, the dry and the wet, but he doesn't say how. I wonder how he does it. I don't know if he would use his hands. Probably, why not? I do prefer, though, to use a tool if I can. Keep the hands dirty. Or keep the hands clean. Oh. Okay, this mixed up really well. So I'm going to grab a sheet pan. We'll get this spread out. And this goes in the oven. This one's quite a long cook time. 1 hour and 15 minutes, stirring every 15 minutes. And I will say from experience, if it says stir every 15 minutes, regardless of whether you're making granola or if you're making caramel corn, the reason for that is the sugars will burn. So you want to make sure you keep things moving, toasting evenly, or you'll end up with burnt granola, and nobody wants to do that. Okay, we're going to spread our completed product here on our USA sheet pan. This one is silicone coated, so I'm not going to use parchment. If you prefer to use parchment, it would work fine here. I personally don't need it for this pan. Oh, all of that came right out. Can't imagine why, with all the coconut oil. We'll spread this out. Looks beautiful. I would eat it just like this. I don't need to toast it. I already tasted a little bit of that maple syrup and the coconut oil together, and it tastes wonderful. but we'll dry it out some, toast it up a bit with those nuts. So this is going to go in our oven, 250 degrees, an hour and 15 minutes, and we're going to get it out and stir it every 15 minutes to make sure it doesn't burn. That's the plan. So we'll check in. Okay, I did a 15-minute check and did a stir, and now we're at 30 minutes and doing a check and stirring. Looks like we're toasting up nicely. It's getting crispy. The color's changing a bit. It feels like it's kind of sticking together a little, but no signs of burning, which is a good thing. This pan, I don't know if you've tried the USA pan. It's made in the USA. They have a ceramic line, but then they also have this aluminized steel that is coated with silicone that it's amazing how the nonstick properties are wonderful. I have purchased a few pieces on Amazon as well as eBay. So yeah, price around, but yeah, I recommend the USA pans. Back in the oven. We still have 45 minutes to go. Just wanted to share a little bit from our Bible today. This is the New Living Translation, Study Bible, red letters, Jesus's words in red letters. I always encourage that. It makes it easier to know when he's speaking to us. But here in John 3, just a basic verse that is kind of the foundation of the message from Jesus, and where we need to get started. If you're just starting to explore, I encourage you to start in the Gospels, which is Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, and then of course the first few chapters in Genesis kind of lets us know where we're coming from, where it all started. But John 3:16 is often quoted. For God loved the world so much that he gave his one and only Son, so that everyone who believes in him will not perish, but have everlasting or eternal life. God sent his Son into the world not to judge the world, but to save the world through him. And this is Jesus speaking about himself. There, in moving on to 18, there's no judgment against anyone who believes in him, but anyone who does not believe in him has already been judged for not believing in God's one and only Son. And the judgment is based on the fact God's light came into the world, but people loved darkness more than the light, for their actions were evil. All who do evil hate the light and refuse to go near it for fear their sins will be exposed. But those who do what is right come to the light so others can see that they are doing what God wants. So again, Jesus came to earth, lived 33 years, during his ministry, died, raised again, and that is God's covenant with us, that if we believe in Jesus, we too will live forever with him. I hope that you enjoy this little bit of bread for the Spirit that I try to weave in here, sometimes from my Bible, sometimes from a devotional. Let me know in the comments if there's any specific area that you'd want to focus on. I'd gladly share anything you'd like to have me share from the Bible, and we will get back to our granola. It is on its last 15 minutes, so we will be wrapping that up very soon. It is time. We are at 1 hour and 15 minutes. We're going to take our end product, the granola, out of the oven. Here we go. Beautiful, toasty, crispy. So let this cool fully. I imagine it's going to take 30 minutes or so. And then I'm going to store this in my 1-quart mason jars. So fully cooled, add it to your mason jar or whatever form you choose to store it in. If it's really, if it is fully cooled, you can do any of your plastic containers. You can do a plastic Ziploc bag. I just like my mason jars for all my pantry and refrigerator storage. So using a little funnel here to make it easy. This lid is airtight, ball leak proof. This will go on it. And knowing my husband, it's not going to last more than a week, maybe two, but that is the plan for storage. Pardon my reach. And I already have a little yogurt here, planning a bit of a snack in my favorite little thrift store or antique store find. And this will be great on here, just like this, toasty. I like that you can pick kind of and choose the amount of nuts that you get. So yeah, here we go, right over top. This is another, I have a video on the channel of making your own homemade yogurt, so I encourage that. That way you control the ingredients and the flavor. And here I have our cranberries. I'm going to just put a few on top. I did look for, I thought I had raisins, and I don't. I like raisins, and my husband likes cranberries more, so I'm just going to let us add those as we choose. So this is the end product. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Look forward to seeing you again. I appreciate that you spend your time with me. Look forward to seeing you next time. Have a great day.